All right, guys, here we go again. As you can see, I'm with another guest on my channel today, and his name is Michael. And Michael has some incredible stories that he wants to share from manifesting SP, job successes, flying to the Philippines, and other insightful stories from his manifestation journey. But also, we came up with some topics such as how to trust the state, awareness, dealing with emotions, why circumstances don't matter, triggers, and some other topics. So we have a good conversations ahead. And Michael, welcome to the channel.
Yeah, hi Nicholas. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm Michael. I've been in Nicholas' program for 2.5 years now, and yeah, I'm from Ireland, but I'm in the Philippines at the moment. You will all find out how I got there very soon. I've been on this manifesting journey for 8 years, so it's been a long journey, and yeah, I'm excited to do this interview with you today, Nicholas. Let's do it.
Great. Yeah, awesome. I mean, let's dive right in. Let's start with these successes and your conscious manifestations, because I think that will
Sure.
definitely inspire and motivate listeners right now. And then we go into the topics. So,
Sure.
one of the things, of course, you know that, Michael, because I think that was also one of the reasons that got you into manifestation is like the whole SP/relationship topic.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I invite you to share what your experiences have been, what you manifested in that field. So you can just share that.
Yeah, so I suppose the SP thing, it first started 8 years ago actually with a different person. But obviously time went on, moved away from that person, and obviously like what 7, 8 years into the future, and a new person. I met them last May last year. Um, they were great. Like we met online, everything was amazing. The relationship was great. And then obviously the relationship fell apart in like December 2023. So obviously I've been in Nicholas's program for like a year and a half, but obviously, the relationship fell apart. So then I was like, well, I want to manifest this person back. Uh this person was from the Philippines, so she was from the other side of the world to me. It is obviously, or it is a long distance relationship type thing. Yeah, so in about February, March of this year, I got a desire to manifest her back. We never stopped talking. We were always like talking. But she was always like, "Oh, I don't want to get back together. Maybe when I have this thing done, that thing done." She was making excuses basically for why she didn't want to get back together.
Hmm.
So, then obviously I had the desire, and I was basically thinking, okay, well, what can I do? I was like, I need to go to the end, I need to shift the state. So that's what we do in manifestation. We shift this state. And so I came up with at first actually I spent a bit of time wondering like which technique to use. I was kind of playing around with techniques for probably a few weeks because I wanted to find something that made the state natural. And tried visualizing, didn't really feel natural. You know, tried other manifesting techniques, didn't really feel natural. But then I found I remember when, and the I remember when I used was I remember when I was single, and now I'm in a loving marriage or relationship was one of those. And then
Hmm.
obviously it had her name in the sentence or in the thought. And basically what I did is I just started to very simply just say that to myself.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
remember when, just repeating the same phrase over and over,
Hmm.
like, like you would do with any thought. You just say it in your head over and over again. And at first I didn't feel the naturalness of it. I had to kept going back to the end. I did this is probably like a month. So over a month, I was shifting the state. So basically, like for April, I was trying to figure out. So basically, I had the desire in March,
Hmm.
and in April, I was trying to figure out, what technique, what way I wanted to shift the state. And then in May, which is literally just like what, 5 months ago, 4 months ago, That's when I started to actually do the I remember when I shift the state. During that month process, there was a lot of emotions, a lot of triggers. Basically, what I did was I used I remember when to make the state natural within. So basically, I just shifted the state. I just said a thought. I remember when over and over again, and then I felt this naturalness, this like just ease, this peacefulness about the circumstances that were happening around me with her. And whenever I felt these triggers, or whenever I felt like I was reacting to something she said, or if she took ages to reply and I felt myself reacting to her, I would always just repeat the same process. I would just do the I remember one
Mm.
again. If I checked my phone, for example, and if she didn't reply within an hour, and I felt like a reaction to that, like if I felt anger, for example, I'd be like, wait, why am I reacting this way?
Mm.
And obviously, I know that reactions come from the old man or the old state. So whenever I notice these, I would just simply just shift back into the wish fulfilled.
Yeah.
And like I said, I did this for like a month or a few weeks. It was a very emotional process.
Hmm.
There were even times when I thought of giving up. I was like, you know what? This is too emotional. This is too this is just too much, because
Yeah.
she was on the other side of the world. I'm in Ireland, she's in the Philippines. Obviously, like you very easily can lose yourself in those situations and be like, well, what are they doing? Are they doing this? Are they doing that? Blah blah blah. But obviously, like I know about consciousness and manifestation and shifting states, so it's just like it doesn't matter what she's doing, it matters what I'm doing within my consciousness or like within my awareness. That's what's most important. So yeah, I just kept shifting the states, and then I went on the bridge, and we got back together like in June, literally.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, so basically, like it was just like a month of shifting, and then we got back together in June, and everything has been great ever since. Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
it's not all been rainbows and you know
Hmm.
daisies. Um, in August, I noticed myself reacting to her again. Like,
Mm.
my behavior changed again. I was like reacting to her, getting angry, but I was like, wait, this is again coming from the old state, the old man. But obviously, like for June, July, and August, I was in the wish fulfilled. But then for some, like sometimes you just think random shit. Like you just think random stuff and it just pulls you out of state. And then but then from that, then I noticed myself reacting to her again. So if she did something, I might get angry, for example. But then I was like, wait, I was like, why am I getting angry? This is coming from the old state. And all I did
Mm.
was shift back into the state I wanted, which is to be in a state of being with her again. And then my feeling within me and my yeah, basically like the way I felt towards her um was natural again. So
Yeah.
that that told me I'm back in the wish fulfilled. So yeah, that's basically the SP story really.
Yeah, that's already like extremely detailed. Like you basically guided us from the beginning
Yeah,
of having the desire to the end of the manifestation and everything
yeah,
that happened in between. I have some follow-up questions for you,
yeah.
Michael, on that. I think we would save that for later first, but now that you brought it up that there were emotions involved and you've fallen out of the desire state, so to speak, I think
Yeah.
that's something that you've mentioned in the program often is that the self-awareness helped you to like stay centered, to stay calm, and to then
Yes.
gently maneuver back to the wish fulfilled. I think before we go into these other
Hmm.
stories, these other successes, would be awesome to hear
Yeah.
your take on how the role of awareness came in here in your manifestation, like how important you view it, and if
Yeah.
you consciously dwell in awareness, so to speak. Why would you say to someone that
Yeah.
just is focusing on techniques and desires, why would you tell them that awareness is so important here?
Um, well, for me, there's two sides to manifesting. There's obviously the manifesting, so you want the 3D results, you want the world experience of whatever. So, if you desire to have a Lamborghini, right? That's a desire, and how you get there is you manifest or you shift the state. So that's one part of manifesting. There's another part of manifesting where it's understanding your awareness, understanding your consciousness. Basically, I knew that states um have like when you're in the wish fulfilled, you're very natural towards the circumstances. And when you're not in the wish fulfilled, you're very reactive. Maybe you get
Mm,
angry, maybe you get
right.
anxious, maybe a negative emotion or a negative behavior will come up because you're not in the wish fulfilled. So, but being self-aware or, being more connected with my awareness or, understanding my true self more, it helped me to be conscious of those moments when I wasn't
Mm,
in the wish fulfilled.
mhm,
Because when you are unconscious or when you don't know you have an awareness, when you don't know it well enough, when you don't understand it, you would what am I trying to say? You would tend to lose yourself
yeah,
in
get
those
entangled.
tense emotions.
Mhm,
Yeah, yeah. You lose yourself in those tense emotions and the mind goes crazy, it starts thinking all this random stuff, Overthinking kicks in, like intense emotions and your reactions
mm,
to somebody can be very intense. But understanding your awareness, understanding your true self makes it incredibly easy. It helps to become aware when you're not in a state. I think that's the key.
mhm,
5 or 6 years ago, I would have spiraled out of control because I would have been a very unconscious person.
mm,
But yeah, studying awareness has helped me to become very self-aware
mhm.
and just recognize these moments when I'm not in the wish fulfilled, and then I just allow these emotions, I allow these feelings to come up, or even if it's just even if I do something stupid, I'm just like, okay, it's fine. It's just a bodily behavior. It's nothing bad. You just go back to the end. You just go back to the wish fulfilled. You do
Yeah.
your I remember when, when you're peaceful again, when the emotions
Mm.
are no longer triggering, you just find a quiet moment and just go back to the end. Whether it's visualizing, I remember when, whatever technique people want to use.
There's another one, Michael, which is something you shared recently, I remember, which is the staying longer in the Philippines because there was like a time limit and
Yeah,
the visa situation. So, how did you handle that circumstance? It's very insightful.
yeah. So this actually happened like what, over a month and a half ago, like
Yeah.
literally like the 29th of August. So what, like 30, 40 days ago, something like
Mm.
that. Yeah. So this is an interesting one actually. I had this desire in the middle of August, and I do remember actually I went to the end, made the stay natural, and for whatever reason I fell out of the state.
But your desire was to stay longer. Like that was the desire to stay longer
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
sorry, yeah.
Philippines. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, yeah.
Mm.
I can spend, yeah. So basically my desire was to I was going home on the 30th of August. I wanted to stay in the Philippines until the 30th of September. That was I just wanted to have the visa so I could stay there longer. I didn't care when I went home if I had the visa. I just wanted to that was my desire. I wanted to stay in the Philippines for 2 months until October 30th. I had this desire in the middle of August. For some reason, I just didn't make it natural, probably because I was just too busy in the 3D, just enjoying life, that type of thing. Um, and then I remember then in probably like the 20th of August, around that, made the stay natural. Then for some reason, well, I fell out of the state. And then basically a week goes by, I don't do anything. It's just like the desire is there. Like the
Mm.
desire is fully back. It's like make it natural, shift the state. If you want to stay in the Philippines, you got to shift. And for some reason, I just didn't. I got spiritually lazy. I just in
Mm.
3D, I was like, I'll manifest later, or shift later. You just sometimes you just get lazy doing it.
Yeah.
And then literally on the 29th, so my visa was up on the 30th of August. I was going home on the 29th. Literally the the night of the 28th of August and the morning of the 29th, literally the day I was going home, I was like, I felt this intense desire. This is probably about 5 o'clock in the morning. I remember this vividly. I remember all this.
Mm.
Probably about 5 o'clock in the morning. I was going home 12 hours. In 12 hours, I would have left the Philippines. And like my SP was asleep, everybody was asleep, and I just got on my phone. I started reading the I remember when on my phone over and over again. I did this probably like I didn't even do it a lot. Probably did it like 5 or 10 times probably. Then I remember the desire come up again a few hours later. Did it again. And then it came up about literally 2 hours before I was about to leave the house, to go to the airport. I did it again. And then literally an hour later, I started to get these impulses, these
Mm.
automatic movements,
Mm.
uh, these impulses, to stay in the Philippines. And I remember I was lying on the bed. I was like, I want to stay here. I'm going to cancel the flight. So basically,
Mm.
that's what I did.
Mm.
Now obviously, oh yeah, I should actually explain that my circumstances were completely against me. I
Yeah.
didn't have the money to stay there. Everybody was complaining at me, you should go home. Like I said, I didn't have the money to actually like
Mm. Mm.
stay there longer. But what I ended up doing was I ended up canceling the flight, which gave me back a bit of money. But then, even if I cancelled the flight, the next logical thing that came into my mind was, well, how am I going to buy the visa?
Yeah.
So, um, what I did was I ended up now I asked my parents for money, which now my parents would never give me money, never. They'd always be like, ah, you get your own money, like normal parent stuff. And I was like, Mom, I want to stay longer. Like I said, my parents would never give me money, but in imagination, people are moved to fulfill desires. So I asked my mom for money, and sent me money. The next day, which literally the day I was like my visa was expired. On the 30th, I went to get the visa. Boom, got the visa. Everything was a smooth process. Ended up staying here for another month or two. So yeah, and like the fact that everything went against it, just even just observing that whole process of
Mm.
like, wow, like asking my parents for money, everything was against me, like I had no, like I said, didn't have enough money. I had to ask people for money. It was all just a natural process from again being in the wish fulfilled.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, um, when you're in the wish fulfilled, everything is natural. You will just naturally, automatically take the actions that lead you to the state you're already in. you know. So yeah, there's a very oh yeah, by the way, I used I remember I never said the technique. I used I remember when for this.
Mm.
So the way I did it was I remember when I was going home in August 30, but now I received a 2 month visa extension until October 30th. That's
Mm-hmm.
how I worded it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that implied to me that when I got the visa, two I'm staying until the Philippines. I didn't
Yeah.
care when I went home, like after I got the visa. I didn't care whether I went home a week later or whatever. It didn't matter to me. I was just like, when I want the visa. I want to stay longer. That was my desire,
Mm-hmm.
and that's exactly what I got. And yeah,
Great.
that's literally how I did it. And I suppose this manifestation was within a day or even a few hours, if you want to call it a few
I
hours.
have a follow-up question on that because this for me ties perfectly into the topic of circumstances are actually neutral. Because we came up with
Mm,
this topic before the interview, and I
yeah,
remember you saying that recently in a call in the program is that you realize that circumstances only matter if they are viewed from a certain state of mind. I mean, but actually they're neutral. But if we are currently in
yeah,
lack, then we will feel triggered and worried. But if we zoom out, we say, hey, it's actually neutral. And from the wish fulfilled state, we also see the current circumstances differently. So what we came up with was this topic of circumstances are neutral. We determine based on our state how we see the circumstances. What are your thoughts on the topic of circumstances? Now, also having all the stories in mind that you shared with us.
yeah. Like when I look back at things my SP were saying to me, she was saying like, I don't want to be with you. Actually, no, she never said that, but she was like, she wanted to see me do so. She was saying things like, "Oh, I want to see you do more things. I want to see you come to the Philippines and we go back together." She was basically just saying things that she would say instead of getting back together. But again, these are the circumstances. Same thing with the visa manifestation, or the desire for staying longer. It didn't matter that I didn't have the money. It didn't matter that. I didn't have the visa right now. It didn't matter that I was going home the next day. Um, what mattered is where I went within, what
Yeah.
state I put myself in, and then
Mm.
everything else took care of itself. When it comes to circumstances, the mind or the mind part of us labels everything as big, small, bad, good, you know.
Yeah.
But when you take a step back, right? So if you're faced with a set of circumstances at the moment, they seem so like in your face, right? They seem so like present. But if you go in imagination, right? So let's say you have an SP, right? And they don't want to get back with you at the moment. That's your circumstance. They don't want to get back with you at the moment. But you want to be with them. You go in your imagination to where you're already with them. The circumstances will actually just take care of themselves. Because essentially the only reason the circumstances are there in the first place is because it was just an old state.
Mm.
So when my SP was complaining at me saying, I don't want to get back with you, blah, 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 blah. You know, she was giving me all these excuses as to why she didn't want to get back together with me.
Hmm.
That was
Hmm.
just the old state.
Mm.
So if you want to change your circumstances, you have to kind of, I don't want to say ignore them, but you don't ignore them, but acknowledge them, but just be at peace with them.
Nice. That's a
Um,
good way of framing it.
yeah, acknowledge them and just
But
be at
don't take your
peace.
cue from them. Don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because realize that the only reason they're there is because, wait, I just fell out of state. That's the only reason circumstances are there because you're not in the state, right? It's all right. It's just an old state you were in previously. But
Mm.
when you shift into the desired state and when you remain in that state, the circumstances eventually, we don't know how long, of course, but eventually they disappear. And you then end up going along the bridge of your desired state.
Yep.
Whereas before, when you were in the old state, you were faced with these circumstances and all these things, and when you're in the wish fulfilled, the circumstances just they fall away naturally,
Hmm.
you know.
I agree.
With regards to circumstances themselves, the mind, like I said, the mind will label circumstances as big, bad, small, good, or But when you view circumstances from consciousness, you realize that circumstances are neutral.
Yeah.
They don't actually mean anything. They're just, like I said, they're just there from an old state you were in.
Hmm.
So they actually don't mean anything. Because when you go into the wish fulfilled, and when you remain there, circumstances
Yeah.
disappear. But people fall or people trip up is because they get lost in these circumstances. But I think what would really help people is if they understood why those circumstances are there in the first place. It's just the old state.
Mm.
But when you
Right.
remain in the wish fulfilled, the old circumstances or the circumstances you see as problems fall away. And
Yeah.
like I said, when you view circumstances from consciousness, they are natural. They don't mean anything. It's just an old state. So yeah, that's really
Right.
the way I think about them.
Same. Yeah, I fully agree. That that comes also with the topic of triggers because we sometimes look in the circumstances
Hmm.
and then we feel people who are not at the level of understanding that you're at right now and they are entangled in their circumstances quite often and then they see something that they don't like, right? You mentioned some things where the person you manifested said something and it triggered you maybe initially a little bit, or with the Philippine story and all of that. So what about the topic of triggers, like what you said in the beginning to me before we started the recording, is that actually triggers are not bad. There's something good. How has your point of view on triggers changed?
Yeah.
Like, how do you perceive triggers right now when you get triggered?
When it comes to triggers, these triggers only appear when you're not in the wish fulfilled. Why do I say
Mm.
that?
Mm-hmm.
Because like I just said, when you're in the wish fulfilled, or when you're in any state, so if you're in a good, like if you're in a state of walking, running, being a fit person, being in a job, right? As long as you remain in these states within consciousness, you will feel natural, uh, experiencing these things in the 3D. Now, when you're not in the wish fulfilled, that's when the triggers come. That's when
Mm,
the negative reactions come. That's when the negative feelings come. That's when the triggers come. That's when the intense emotions come. And a lot of people, I don't think, understand this. And this is why a lot of people get stuck when it comes to manifesting things, is they lose themselves in their triggers
mm,
because they don't know
mm.
where they're coming from. They're just it's just coming from the old state. And this is why I said earlier when Nicholas asked me about awareness, is when you study awareness and when you study your true self, you becomes a lot easier to recognize these triggers, you
Definitely.
know? So, when you tie it all together, study awareness, oh, this helps me to become more aware of when the triggers appears, and it becomes easier to shift the state. So, yeah, a trigger for me is very simply just an indication from my consciousness that I'm not in the wish fulfilled.
You said it first of all very clearly that triggers are nothing to be worried about. Only if
No,
we,
they're not.
yeah, lose ourselves in them. But if we see them as opportunities, right? That's also, I think, what you mentioned in the
You see
in the
them as
call, as opportunities to be like, hey, okay, my life has just shown me that I'm currently not in the wish fulfilled state, because if I would be, I would not be triggered about the circumstance. So it's an opportunity for me to gently maneuver back. I can be triggered. That's not harmful. So it's nothing bad if it happens. And after it happened, and I notice it because I was self aware enough to realize it, I can then gently maneuver back in my desired state where the trigger, like you said, doesn't exist. Then triggers become less of a problem in the manifestation journey.
Yeah, and I'll just add, like, it's not to say that, like, oh, triggers disappear forever. No, because the old state is always available.
Yeah,
But what the thing is, if you always remain in the wish fulfillment state, you can't be triggered. It's as
right.
simple as that.
For me, that ties in also into the topic that we wanted to touch base on a little bit, which is the topic of trusting a state. And you said something very amazing earlier on. You said trusting a state comes from being in the state. So you mentioned a lot of times right now
Mm,
going in the wish fulfilled is like essential so that we don't stay in the old state, of course, make the new state natural. Is there anything you would like to add
yeah.
when it comes to trusting a state comes from being in the state? Because I really liked how you phrased that earlier.
When I came to the Philippines, me and my SP were not back together.
Hmm.
So yes, coming to the Philippines was one desire, and being back with my SP was another desire. But by getting on that plane and going to the Philippines, I trusted. I trusted my state that I was
Hmm.
already, that my SP would say, yes, it's back together. Now, even if she had to say, no, I'm not ready yet, I don't think I would have, I don't think I would have cared. I'm like, we're fine. We'll get back together when you're ready. But even if she said, no, I'm not ready, I don't want to do it right now, I would have still persisted, even if I was in her room, which I am right now. I would have been, now, if I felt a reaction towards that, I would have went back to the Sheffield again. But as it turns out, when I came here, we instantly got back together, and I trusted. I traveled to the other side of the world, and I trusted a state that I was in. I had no idea. My human self and the mind had no idea what the hell she was going to say.
Yeah.
She could have said, "Go back on the plane, go back to Ireland," for all I know, But I trusted the state I was in. But again, like Nicholas said, the trust comes from being in the wish fulfilled. And
Mm.
you don't have to do anything to trust. The trust is automatic, the letting go is automatic, the triggers disappear automatically. It's
Mm.
just like
Nice.
like the only thing we have to do as human beings, I suppose, is consciously go back to the wish fulfilled. That's where everything is taken care of. So
That's a great
yeah,
statement, by the way.
I would add something very small. Um just to say that where you go in imagination is where you're putting your future human self. So
Mm.
I'll give a quick example. I
Nice.
was in Ireland and desired to go to the Philippines. I put myself in Philippines already in my imagine. I put myself in the state of being in the Philippines in my awareness, in my imagination, and then I went there. Um, if you want to manifest an SP or a relationship, put yourself in the relationship first in imagination, and you will go there in the 3D. You
Mm.
must always, if you ever want to experience anything in your life, You must always go there first. And here, once I understood my awareness, it was just about self-observation, just observing emotions, observing thoughts, observing the manifesting process in real time, like literally just going, oh wow, I'm so natural about this state. This is cool. Like,
Mm.
So um yeah, again, like took me like 6, 7 years to understand this stuff, but a lot of people told me stop doing it, stop trying to do this, you're driving yourself crazy. But I persisted, and now I very glad because now I get to live a very peaceful life and I understand how life works as well, in a sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I would say when it
That's
comes to that.
great. No, no, no. It's very motivating to hear, and I've told you that also in the call is that I think that is a great example of, you know, dedicating yourself to those teachings and sticking with it and not giving up at the first glance of some opposite circumstances. So I think that's insightful. I would like to ask you because I know that we went over some very helpful topics for the audience. What would you say would be your top three, let's just say, tips, one to three tips, depending on how much you want to share, that you would give to the listener right now to conclude it? Like, where should they start? What should they do? What should they focus on in moving so that they can move forward on their journey? So, which concluding tips do you have?
Um, well, I suppose the first thing to say is anyone who's doubting the law, test the law. I think Neville said that himself. If you want to know the law is real, test the law, even in something small like finding money on the street or, manifesting. Try to do it on something meaningless to you. Well, I
Yeah.
suppose then the mind can get in the way and be like, well, is that really real? Then test it on more things. Climbing a
Mm.
ladder or getting a compliment or finding a certain object or, you know, test the law really. That's what I would say. Then the second thing, which probably would be my number one, but no, it would be my number one tip would be to understand your awareness. That's what
Mm.
gives me the life I live today. But yeah, understand your awareness. Watch a Rupert Spira.
Michael, thank you for joining the channel, for sharing your insights, for sharing your perspectives, for sharing your story. I found it definitely very motivational and inspirational. Guys, let us know in the comments beneath the video what you think about this. If you want to hear more of this, what thoughts you have, if you have any questions. And Michael, thank you for joining. It was great to meet you.
Thank you, Nicholas, and hope everybody gets amazing insights from this. And I hope people, the final thing I say is, I hope people place more importance on their awareness than manifesting.
Yeah.
That's that's the final thing. It's not that I'm not saying manifestation is bad or shouldn't focus on it, but what I'm saying is if you learn the awareness side of you, it makes manifesting 100 times easier.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. So
Fully agree.
that's the final thing I'll say, Nicholas. Thank you for having me, and I hope everybody enjoys.
It was awesome. Michael, thank you so much. See you soon.
Thanks, Nicholas. Bye.